The conflict between the Byzantine Empire and the Bulgarian Empire had been ongoing for several decades, with both sides vying for control over the Balkan. After the Bulgarian victory in the War of 894 to 896, the Byzantine Empire was compelled to pay tribute to Tsar Simeon I of Bulgaria. However, in 912, when Byzantine Emperor Leo VI passed away, his brother Alexander refused to continue paying tribute to the Bulgarians. This refusal presented an opportunity for Simeon to launch a new war and pursue his ambitions to conquer Constantinople. In the same year, Alexander also passed away, and the new Byzantine government under Patriarch Nicholas Mystikos made frantic efforts to avoid a war. They even promised that the infant Emperor Constantine VII would marry one of Simeon's daughters. In an attempt to solidify this alliance, Patriarch Nicholas and Simeon met outside the walls of Constantinople, where a coronation ceremony was performed. Consequently, Simeon began using the title Tsar of the Bulgarians and the Greek title Basileus in his official seals. However, the situation took a different turn in 914 after a plot unfolded in the Byzantine court. Zoe, Constantine's mother and the new regent, rejected the proposed marriage alliance. In response, the Bulgarians raided eastern Thrace, and by September 914 they had taken control of Adrianople, with its population acknowledging Simeon as their ruler. During this time, the Byzantine army was occupied in the eastern regions. In the following year, Bulgarian armies launched attacks on the areas of Dyrrhachium and Thessalonica. This sequence of events set the stage for further hostilities between the Byzantine Empire and Bulgaria. Both sides in the conflict made careful preparations for what they hoped would be a decisive engagement. Empress Zoe of the Byzantine Empire had a plan to quickly negotiate a peace settlement with the Arabs, allowing her to mobilize the entire Eastern Roman army to confront Simeon of Bulgaria.
Soldiers, remember your ancestors as you go into battle. Make sure they witness no cowardice today. They were mighty men and sired mighty sons. Be worthy of them. Now, stand your ground and make ready.
By the end of July 917, the Byzantine Empire had assembled a substantial army of around 30,000 troops from various regions, including the Balkan and Anatolian themes, as well as tagmatic units. This army was stationed on the plain of Diabases in Thrace and placed under the command of Leo Phocas, who held the title of Domestikos ton Skalon. Leo was the son of the late Nikephoros Phocas, who had previously faced Tsar Simeon of Bulgaria in the year 895. To support Leo in his leadership role, there were battle-tested and distinguished officers and notable figures who held various commands or staff positions within the army. Within the Tagmata, Albion Marsols led the Hikonatoi troops, while John Grapson commanded the Excubatoi. Other units were under the leadership of individuals like the Argyros brothers, Leo and Romanos, and Bardas Phocas, who was not only Leo Phocas' brother but also the father of the future emperor, Nikephoros II Phocas. The Armenian contingent was led by Melius, and the patrician Constantine Lips served as an aide and advisor to the army's overall commander. Leo Phocas, despite his technical competence as a soldier, lacked the intellectual and visionary qualities that had made his father an exceptional general. However, his familial connections, being part of a powerful patrician family, his relationship with key figures in the regency government, and his favor with Empress Zoe, all contributed to his appointment as the supreme commander of the Byzantine land forces for this campaign. To boost the army's morale, the regency government ensured that the troops were paid for their service. Additionally, clergymen from the capital were dispatched to the army camps, carrying with them the relic of the True Cross, one of many sacred items housed in the Great Palace. In each unit's encampment, soldiers gathered for ceremonies venerating this holy relic and swore oaths of loyalty to one another, pledging to stand together in the upcoming conflict if necessary. With their financial needs met and their spirits spiritually fortified, the Byzantine army began its invasion of Bulgaria in early August. They easily breached the Great Fence and reached the vicinity of Achelous, located south of Mesembria, shortly after mid-month.
Today is the day of battle that we prayed would come. Take up your weapons and make your farewells. Some of you will die in what follows, but our people will have victory.
The exact size of Tsar Simeon I of Bulgaria's army during the Battle of Achelous in 917 is not known. Despite their disruption of Byzantine negotiations, the Bulgarians remained concerned that their former allies, the Pechenegs and the Hungarians, might launch attacks from the north. Consequently, The Bulgarian Empire, which extended from Bosnia in the west to the Dnieper River in the east, dispatched two smaller armies to protect its northern borders. A historical source known as the Miracula Sancti Georgii, written in the 11th century and of questionable reliability in this context, is the only one that suggests the Bulgarian army at the Battle of Achelous had Hungarian and Pecheneg troops as allies. According to this source, these allies played a crucial role in securing victory against the Byzantine army. Some historians, including Ivan Duashev, Gyula Christo, and Ferenc Mack, have accepted the idea of Hungarian and Pecheneg involvement based on this account. Christo even interpreted the Hungarians' participation as a sign of the decline of the Hungarian nomadic state, as they began launching raids in different directions in the same year, indicating a loss of central control. However, contemporary sources, including a letter from Nicholas Mystikos, contradict the narrative provided in the chronicle. Up until the 930, the Hungarians were actually considered strong allies of the Byzantine Empire. Additionally, Bulgarian forces under Marmais were stationed near the western borders, close to the Serb principalities, to prevent potential unrest. According to modern historian, the Bulgarian army numbered around 15,000 men. The Byzantine army, under the command of Leo Phocas, had set up their camp on the coastal plain not far from Achelous. Their scouts quickly reported that the Bulgarians had also assembled a substantial force nearby. It's possible that Phocas had not yet received information about the Pechenegs' movements, but even if he had, it was of little consequence since his primary goal was to achieve a decisive victory over the Bulgarians. With the main Bulgarian force now positioned directly in front of him, Leo Phocas was confident that the Bulgarians would be unable to withstand a powerful assault from his experienced and battle-hardened army. Therefore, he made the decision to launch an attack against the Bulgarians. On August 20th, the Byzantine Demistikos Tun Skalon, Leo Phocas, organized his units into a battle formation outside their camp and ordered them to advance northward across the coastal plain with the intention of launching a coordinated attack against the Bulgarians. Simeon, who was observing these movements from a hill on the edge of the plain, responded swiftly. He directed his commanders to form their battle lines and move to confront the oncoming Byzantine attackers. Within a matter of minutes, the two opposing forces engaged in combat on the flatlands located south of the Achelous. The details of the battle that followed its initial outbreak are somewhat unclear, as Byzantine sources provide two somewhat differing accounts of the engagement. John Skylitzes, who wrote about the battle nearly 200 years after it occurred, included both depictions in his text. One account of the Battle of Achelous, which is favored by the majority of historians, describes how Leo Phocas initiated the battle with a successful assault on Simeon's Bulgarian lines. This initial attack resulted in numerous Bulgarian casualties and pushed them back along the plain, causing their retreat to become increasingly disorganized, almost verging on a rout. The weather on that day was hot, and Leo Phocas, who led his troops from a position close to the front lines, believed that total victory was within reach. During the heat of the battle, he stopped to dismount at a spring he came across to quickly rinse off and take a drink. However, his horse, startled by the noise of battle, broke free from its temporary tether and galloped along the rear of the nearby battle line. Some Byzantine soldiers, recognizing the commander-in-chief's mount and seeing it running riderless, immediately concluded that Phocas had been killed. This false and demoralizing news spread rapidly along the Byzantine lines like wildfire. As a result, the Byzantine army's advance came to an abrupt halt. The soldiers, their morale severely shaken, lost their enthusiasm for the fight, and some began to retreat. This demoralization quickly turned into panic. Simeon, observing the growing disruption in the enemy's battle lines from his elevated position, seized the opportunity. He promptly ordered his warriors to turn around and confront their disorganized pursuers. The Byzantine troops, now in disarray, broke and fled as the Bulgarians transitioned from retreat to a counterattack. A rout ensued, during which thousands of imperial soldiers were either killed, wounded, captured by the Bulgarians, or trampled underfoot by their own panicked comrades. Several Byzantine commanders and notable figures lost their lives in the chaos, including John Grabson of the Excubitoi and Constantine Lips. Leo Phocas and some others managed to save themselves by making their way to Mesembria amidst the chaos that had taken over the battlefield. What initially appeared to be a certain Byzantine victory had been transformed into a catastrophic defeat. The alternative Byzantine account of the battle seemed to have more of a political overtone than the previous one. According to this version of the grand tactical plan, after ferrying the Pechenegs across the Danube, Admiral Romanos Likapinos was expected to sail to Mesembria in support of the land forces as they crossed the Balkan Mountains. Believing that the fleet was en route, Leo Phocas initiated his attack on Simeon's Bulgarian forces south of the Achelous River. In this version, as in the previous narrative, Phocas's initial assault was successful, breaking the Bulgarians' lines and causing them to flee. However, in the midst of pursuing the retreating enemy, Phocas received a report that stunned and angered him. The report stated that instead of docking at Mesembria, Romanos Lecapinos had set sail with his entire fleet for Constantinople, with the implication being that he was attempting to overthrow the Regency government, possibly due to differences of opinion or rivalry with Phocas. Shocked and frustrated by this news, and having his own aspirations for the imperial throne, Phocas hastily returned to his camp to verify the troubling dispatch. Unfortunately, his sudden departure from the battlefield was misinterpreted by nearby Byzantine troops, who concluded that their commander-in-chief was abandoning the field. This misunderstanding quickly spread through the ranks, leading to panic and causing many soldiers to start retreating. Simeon, who initially thought that the demoralized enemy's withdrawal might be a feint designed to lure him into a trap, took advantage of the situation. He managed to turn the tide of the battle in a manner similar to the other version of events, ultimately leading to the Byzantine army's defeat. If we set aside the anecdotal details regarding the commanders, which were highlighted for their political importance, both accounts of the Battle of Achelous present a similar sequence of events during the battle. First, the battle begins with a successful Byzantine attack on the Bulgarian. Second, the Bulgarian lines are pushed back and thrown into disarray by the Byzantine assault. Third, the Byzantines pursue the retreating Bulgarians, leading to disorganization within their own ranks. Fourth, the retreating Bulgarians regroup and turn to confront their pursuers. Fifth, the Bulgarians launch a comprehensive counterattack that further breaks the already shaken Byzantine army, leading to its collapse. Sixth, the Bulgarians relentlessly pursue the fleeing Byzantine soldiers, inflicting significant casualties during the pursuit. This shared outline of events strongly suggests the possibility of a strategic trap, specifically an artfully executed feigned retreat orchestrated by Simeon. This tactic may have been employed to lure the Byzantines into a vulnerable position at Achelous. It becomes evident that what initially appeared to be an assured and decisive victory for the Byzantines was, in reality, a deceptive and fatal illusion. Drawing from the common elements found in both Byzantine accounts, we can create a plausible reconstruction of the battle that focuses on strategic tactics rather than random occurrences. On August 20th, both the Byzantine and Bulgarian armies positioned themselves in orderly two-line battle formations, facing each other slightly north of the Byzantine encampment near Achelous. They stood on the coastal plain, which separated the Black Sea to the east from the rolling foothills of the Balkan Mountains to the west. Leo Phocas, the Byzantine commander, organized his entire force on the plain, preparing for a concentrated frontal assault against the Bulgarian lines to the north. Meanwhile, Tsar Simeon of Bulgaria devised a tactical maneuver intending to lure the Byzantine army into a trap by employing the strategy of a feigned retreat. To execute this plan, Simeon deployed most of his troops on the open plain and advanced them to meet the Byzantine attack. However, he kept a formidable reserve force, mainly consisting of his personal retinue, concealed in the foothills beyond his right flank. As the front lines of both armies clashed on the plain, intense and brutal combat erupted. Initially, as Simeon had anticipated, the Byzantines gained the upper hand due to their sheer numerical advantage. Some Bulgarian units may have even broken under the pressure, while the majority began a tactical retreat to the north, maintaining a loosely organized formation under the command of their officers, who executed their rulers' predetermined plan. Observing the Bulgarians seemingly withdrawing from the battlefield, the Byzantine troops pursued them. Leo Phocas, believing that Bulgarian resistance had crumbled, likely dispatched his tagmatic reserves with the intention of delivering the coup de grace to what he now perceived as a defeated opponent. In typical combat situations like this, the cohesion of the pursuing Byzantine units began to deteriorate, and command control became less effective as they chased the retreating Bulgarians further north toward the Achelous River. Tsar Simeon, observing these developments from his elevated position on the right flank, assessed the extent of the Byzantine disarray and how deeply they had fallen into the trap. When Simeon believed that the conditions were favorable, he signaled his commanders on the plain to abruptly change their course and strike back at their pursuers. Simultaneously, he personally led his reserve force, previously concealed in the foothills, in a swift descent upon the exposed Byzantine left flank and rear. Some elements of this reserve might have also moved southward to overrun the lightly defended Byzantine encampment. Since Phocas had apparently committed his own reserves to the pursuit, he had none left to counter the Bulgarian flank assault. The unexpected and ferocious Bulgarian onslaught struck the disorganized Byzantine lines with devastating force. Whether Phocas was unhorsed in the midst of the battle or was seen fleeing from the ensuing carnage, his actions had little impact in the face of the psychological shock inflicted on the Byzantine forces by the sudden reversal of fortune. Caught in a pincer attack from the front, flank, and rear by an enemy that had appeared defeated just a short time earlier, the morale of the Byzantine troops crumbled. Their units disintegrated, and they were forced back against the shoreline of the Black Sea. In their desperation, they fled the battlefield in any direction available to them, some heading north towards the safety of Messembria's walls while others sought refuge to the south, beyond Achelous. The slaughter inflicted by the victorious Bulgarians upon the fleeing remnants of the shattered imperial army was horrifying. It left piles of dead bodies scattered across the plain. Strangely, for reasons unknown but certainly not in accordance with Christian burial practices, Simeon chose to leave these corpses to decay unburied. Even some 70 years later, the bleached bones of the fallen soldiers were still visible on the ground.